Who Jumbo Mel?
Jumbo, Robin.
How are you today?
I'm doing just great.
Yeah, I can see that. And so nice to see you. And as you can see, we are joined by a special guest who hasn't joined us for a while, but it's so nice to see him again. Kirk Wadi is right here in the studio with us. Who Jumbo Kirk?
Hello and jumbo to you.
Hi, Kurt.
Hello. It's good to see you all. Absolutely.
Well, I've been today I spent some time looking at YouTube, and of course, then I always go to Wadi Speaks to see what's new. And there is a lot of new stuff there. I mean, there's always new things coming in. And I always look back on the secrets of dashikis and the wearing locks video. But I saw that Kirk has added a lot of well, you've been busy, you've been traveling around. And so I thought, you know what, it's time to talk about some what to do over the summer, learning some Black history. And so, Kirk, that's why I thought it would be great to have an espresso with you today. And Mel, I know you've been talking about going places. So, do you think that we should have a real talk today?
Let's do some real talk, y'all. Real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk. Okay.
Don't have to ask you twice. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to do some real talk about the Buffalo Soldiers Museum in Houston, Texas. It's really interesting. The Buffalo Soldiers, they were formed in 1866 by a congressional act. Why would they call were Black African-American soldiers? Why would they call Buffalo soldiers? And there's speculation about it. Some people say, well, it was because, the hair, the texture of the hair was kind of like a buffalo. Other people said, well, they wore the coats that looked like buffalo skins. And I like the third one. The third one was by Native Americans who said they were very courageous. They fought hard, they fought well, and they stood their ground. So I really like that. And in the Buffalo Soldiers Museum in Houston, Texas, they have a lot of memorabilia directly from Buffalo soldiers. In addition to that, they'll take you around and show you what's there. Personally, they have reenactments by real actors about some of the battles that they fought. And it's really a great place to go. And there are still people sending in memorabilia from their own family vaults for the Buffalo Soldiers. So it's an amazing thing to see. And that was this movie that Denzel Washington was in with the Buffalo Soldiers. So you might want to check that out too. But if you really want to see the real Buffalo Soldiers memorabilia, go to the Buffalo Soldiers Museum in Houston, Texas. I think you'll find something just really exciting. So I know you've been traveling, Kurt. What do you have on your plate?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Buffalo Soldier Museum, I literally had to grab a pen so I could make some notes because I did not know about that. And kind of what sparked my whole summer trip, which I'll go into slight detail, is the fact that I'm hearing things that I didn't know about. And I'm not a youngster. I've been around this rodeo a bunch of times. But the thing of it is that we're looking at the whole debate about CRT, critical race theory, how they want to eliminate education and history from the American part of life. And we're all Americans because we live here. So about 6 months ago or so, I've known about the Lorraine Hotel, but I only knew about it through pictures. And I thought the Lorraine Hotel was just a time capsule. The Lorraine Hotel, if you don't know, it's where Martin Luther King was assassinated, where he was murdered. I thought they had just taken the hotel and sanctioned it off and just made it a time capsule and just a place where you could just drive by and just like, But I later on found out that they had actually built a museum, which was called the Civil Rights Museum, and attached it to the hotel. And I was like, wait a minute, I've never really heard about it. And I made it a point not to just I made it a point to go directly there. And so that was the first stop of my trip. my vacation. And when I got to Memphis, and I found out that was there and what it was just full of, I was blown away. And when I was in Memphis, I also found some other, gems to visit. So that was an amazing, an amazing experience. Also, I went to the Slave Haven Museum, which is a home, also in Memphis, and that was very interesting. So.
Well, Kirk, I remember watching your video, and I think you were in Memphis then, at the Stax Museum, and you described this as a must-see, must-visit. And I was listening to the music, and I was loving it all.
That was an excuse me, another gem. Excuse me. We know about Motown. We all know about Motown because there's Jackson 5 and Motown Records and Berry Gordy and the Diana Ross, and we all know about Motown. But a lot of the music that we were hearing was coming from Stax Records. Now, Stax Records was a white-owned company, but the majority of your artists were Black. And the interesting thing about Stax was the fact that they were able to bring all of these artists together, and it created an environment for them to just be artists. And so there was just tons of music that came out of there. And like I said, the majority of your artists were Black, say probably 95% of them. And it's just a great place of history. Now the actual Stax, what Stax was, it was an old movie theater, and somebody came in and bought it, and bought the building and made it into a recording studio. Now the original museum, the original recording studio became so dilapidated and it was torn down, but they rebuilt it exactly to specs. And they also added a music school next to it. Like on the video you see, I was fortunate to be there when a bunch of kids, or not kids, just students from the school gave a concert, and they were good. I'm a musician and I know good. They were good.
Wow.
But yeah, so even with that, there was one scene in there where they were talking about how Stax went out of business. And it was a direct correlation to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, how after he was assassinated, nobody wanted to work together. Before there was an environment where all the musicians and the music just came together, but after that happened, it just fell apart. And that was part of the demise of Stax Records. They said it was never the same after that. And they eventually went under.
Well, that, I was just watching the pictures and listening to the music, and oh my gosh, wow. I thought I definitely got to go there.
The other thing about, I'll make this quick. The other thing about that, these places, the Civil Rights Museum, it cost like $12 for me. And I think the regular ticket was $16. You spend more than that on a hamburger and fries.
Absolutely.
And the Stax Museum was another $12 ticket. Now the Civil Rights Museum, you can easily spend up to 4 to 5 hours there. Easily. Just walking, and there's places to sit down. The exhibits were top notch. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's just not a bunch of junk thrown together. No, it's well thought out. Everything is just breathtaking. And it takes you from basically, gives you a quick breakdown on what slavery was about and why slaves were so valuable and important. Yeah,
the Buffalo Soldiers Museum is like that. The fee to get there to go there is very, very nominal. And they have the memorabilia is original. I mean, the original outfits they wore, because a lot of these people were the soldiers. Some were freemen and others were enslaved people. So it was really, really interesting to just see all of that and to be able to actually touch it and become a part of it. And then when they did the enactment, then you felt like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. These people had, courage that was just, unparalleled in my mind. I mean, it was just something. So yeah, I agree with you.
Did they talk about the only woman, that female Buffalo soldier that they know of, Kathy Williams?
Kathy Williams, yes, they did. They had not only a picture of her, they had, there's a book about Kathy Williams, and a story about her. And they did talk about her. She was the only female Buffalo soldier. And has an amazing history. And I really recommend that people read her story because it is amazing.
What was the name again?
Kathy Williams, that was her name. And the book is of the same name.
Yeah, it's interesting that you by the name William Cathy. Yeah.
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 I'm learning stuff and I'm writing things down in these places that I absolutely will go back and visit, put it on my list. So.
I just think, yeah, I mean, we have some time. Hopefully we have time during the summer to go see some of these places. And Mel, I know that you mentioned there was like the HBCUs. You thought would be a good place to visit.
Absolutely. Historical Black colleges and universities. It's really interesting. I grew up about 8 blocks away from Texas Southern University, which is one of the historically Black colleges and universities. And it's an amazing place. I mean, the campus is huge. The faculty and teachers, they you can just go and they talk to you, and they have events all the time, and not only African American events, but there's symphonies and plays, and it's just an amazing place. And during the summers when I was in college, I got part-time jobs there. So it's a place where you can do that. And I took some college courses there to satisfy my requirements at another college that I was going to. So there are more than 100, if you can believe this, historically Black colleges and universities. And as you know, they were formed because they would not let African American students, Black students, go to the white colleges. So we started our own as usual. And we went there, and there are so many colleges all over the South, and there are some nearer the East, but many of them you've heard of, Howard University. There's Houston-Tillotson in Austin, Texas. That's the college my father actually went to. There's Texas Southern University. I went there. I met my husband there, if you can believe that. So it's just, it's an amazing experience to be on the campus of a historically Black college and university and just become a part of it and a part of the, I guess it's kind of like the atmosphere that, you feel not only welcome, but yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Wow, Kirk, did you go visit any while you were in the South, or have you been to any? I really never have.
Well, one of the things I mentioned in one of my videos, I was born and reared in California, which is, it's not a state that was immune from segregation and racism, but it wasn't a slave state. So we do not have that history, and that's not a part of, we can't drive down the street or drive by, it's part of our past. So these things are kind of not on our radar. And that's why it's important for us to teach our kids about it, that there are HBCUs available for them to go to and connect. So to answer your question, no, that's something that I hadn't thought about. I know we still, to a small extent, will take students on tours, but even for that's a major event where you have to, get everybody across the country or to the South. One place I didn't mention I went to was a place called the Slave Haven Museum. And it was basically, that was I guess it's called an antebellum style home, which is a really, really small home that was built prior to the Civil War and whatnot. And this lady, a few years ago, she bought this home. And after she got the home, she started noticing all these different little, things that didn't fit right, like trap doors and hidden passages. And there was like a place that had been filled in with cement, which actually filled up a tunnel. And she figured out that the home then she had to actually come in and do an investigation on the home. And it's that the home was actually a place where slaves would come and hide. Only problem with that one, I was not allowed to film or take any pictures, so I took notes about this. So it was a short trip, but it was good. A lot of history there. It's funny, I know this is kind of off, but there's some things that I learned there about, and part of the presentation just about slavery and about how slaves were treated. Things that I didn't know, and something that I found interesting was that slaves that were scarred were undervalued and discounted. They didn't want them because if that's when they brought some up, they stripped their shirt off. If they had scars on their back, that meant they right they were rebellious. They were not going to be easily taken. They were going to be the ones that were going to resist, that were going to run away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they were sold at discount. And another thing that really shocked me, well, it kind of didn't shock me, but it's like, wow, that babies were discounted. They would sell babies as bundles. You could buy 10 babies for $100 or something, because
What?
yes, because babies were a liability. If a mother had a baby, she was going to care about that baby and want to feed that baby and be with that baby, which means she would not work.
Mm.
So they would sell the babies at a discount. You could buy so many babies for a cheap amount, and they would take the babies and they would have some mothers that would just be a wet nurse and raise these kids. I don't know. So that blew me away.
So at the slave haven, that's where they bought and sold enslaved people? Is that?
Yeah, no, the slave haven, it was basically a haven. It was a house.
That was like the underground. Okay.
Yeah, it was part of the Underground Railroad. But this is part of the history that they would share about slaves, and then how they would have, we have quilting, we have quilts that have been made down to the through our history, and have been passed down, and how the quilts had different significant meanings. If a quilt went one way, it means it's good to come here, and if not, stay away. We all know about the lawn jockeys. You know about those, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lawn jockeys, and they just shared a lot of history, and just a lot of history. But that was, I think, that was the most thing that stood out the most when I found out about the babies.
No, but what about the lawn jockeys? Does that mean that place was on the Underground Railroad? Am I correct on that? Or maybe you can talk more about that, the lawn jockeys.
Well, I might need a little help here. But the lawn jockeys, people would take them. I know they're sold as a part of racist memorabilia, but if there was a lawn jockey and the light was off, it wasn't burning, that means don't come here. It's not safe. If there was a light burning, then it means it's okay to come here. They painted them, so they made them look like minstrels and something that was kind of degrading, and so other people would draw, look at the little lawn jockey. But to those who understood the meaning, it was there, okay, it's safe for me to go there.
Wow.
So there were all these the signals, and I mean, everybody knew it was a kind of an oral kind of understanding about where you could go and where you couldn't and be safe. In terms of the, like the lawn jockeys and the quilts and that type of thing.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they would hang the quilts out, and they said it's funny. She said they never washed the quilts.
What was there a reason for that?
They weren't used for. They were only used for one reason. They were not to stay warm, and they made them, and you would hang them out, and different quilts had different patterns, and they had different meanings. So why do you wash them?
Yeah.
You hang them out.
So at the slave haven, were you able to see some of these original quilts?
Yes, they had quilts at the slave haven. Some of it was original, and some of it I'm quite sure was probably replicated. But the history was there, and the home was there. You got a chance to visit the home, and they were very, they didn't want you to take any pictures or any film. One of the things that also occurred at the Civil Rights Museum when I got there, they said, especially in the first room, they said, please don't take any pictures or film. Although I did see film on YouTube, which is it's totally contrary to what they asked you to do. And out of respect, I wouldn't do it. They said, but take as many pictures as you want. And the reason being is because people want to go to YouTube for something to experience something that they need to actually experience. They need to go there. They need to feel the essence of the presence. When I walked up to the Lorraine Hotel, and I got right outside of it, it was emotional.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Because here's someplace that I've only seen in pictures and on TV. You hear about it, and you're standing there, and it's like, wow. This is a place that an icon was murdered. Somebody who changed the course of the history of this world.
Right.
And it's wow. And then the last half of the tour, you actually go through the two rooms that they were in the day that he was murdered.
Oh, they do. Wow.
Yeah, but it takes you through the entire history. But yeah, it was that place was incredible. And I ran into a couple of people. One lady said she said this was her sixth time going, because you just can't get it all. It's so much, and it's so well done. And the other thing that was really rang strong to me was when I talked about this, and I hope this is not kind of bad, but I was surprised at how many non-blacks were there. And it was watching the emotions on one lady. She was fighting back tears the whole time. And I was also surprised at how many blacks were not there.
Oh, wow.
That's really, really interesting, because see, I think one of the issues is a lot of African-American history, Black history about slavery, has not been available. And we didn't know it was there. The Lorraine Motel and the Civil Rights Museum, perhaps we know about that, but there's so much that we don't know about. And a lot of it's right in our own town, where we live, because we haven't been, what should I say? We haven't been told or encouraged, or it's not been written about or talked about. And there's things that we can just go to, places we can go that are right in our own town. Like, even in Oakland, you were talking about Oakland, there's a Oakland African-American Museum where you can do research on slavery and African-American history. They have photographs, they have books, they have newspaper articles, all kinds of things. It's just amazing what's out there that we didn't know about, and we were not encouraged or even notified that was there.
I think it's just that the information is not put out there. It's not made important. It's so yeah.
No, I think you're right. That it's not made important. And it's like, oh, I'll get to that one day. And the kids are thinking, oh, that's boring. I don't want to go to that. All my friends are going to Disneyland. And so parents, I think, give in. But I think it's because we're not having the conversations at home, about why this is important to know and how this is still a part of our lives. I mean, that's one thing I really appreciated about our home, because my father was always talking about these kinds of things. And one thing he didn't mention, and I found that on my own, although we used to go to visit caverns and all, this may be kind of hardcore. A lot of people aren't going to be interested in this, but this was, I think, this was very interesting about the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky, and that there were a lot of enslaved people who were sent there to work, and eventually they got their freedom. But one in particular, a man named Stephen Bishop, and I have a lot of books on explorers, but he was never in any of these books. And he's actually called America's first great cave explorer. Now, the Mammoth Caves is one of the biggest cave systems and deepest. It's completely underground. One of the biggest ones in the world is 400 miles, long. And they found, they're still exploring it. I mean, they found so many different caverns and all of that there. But I mean, this was a man who wasn't trained or anything like that, but he just learned through instinct and skill how to navigate these underground caves. And they actually even built up a kind of an economy around it. He unfortunately died very young at 37. I mean, the year after he got his freedom, and they said that's mysterious, but we're still wondering about that. But other people, Max Branford, Nick Branford, he and his wife set up a business there, and it was still segregated at the time. But he helped other Black people come in there and navigate and go through this cave system. And he actually got his freedom by selling fish that didn't have eyes, because it's completely dark. And apparently a lot of tourists are very interested in that. And so he's able to buy the freedom for him and his wife. So, I mean, I think, and they say actually there is a pretty large cemetery there of the people who were working there, who were exploring there. So, I mean, we never hear about Black explorers. We hear all about, Christopher, what's his name, but we don't hear about, Black explorers like Matthew Henson, for the North Pole. And we certainly haven't heard about people who have, gone underground, such a skilled and dangerous and I mean, such a skilled person and going into such danger. And he did this without any training. And I have to say his name again, Stephen Bishop, because he was really a great man, and he actually described these caves. You may not want to go there when you hear this, but I promise, I think it's going to be a really great experience. He called them grand, gloomy, and peculiar. And he spent 20 years exploring those caves. And he actually was the one who found it and crossed the bottomless pit. Not many people can claim to have done that. So I'm highly recommending the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. So that's my thing. So I really hope that you'll go. Okay.
I'm actually making a list. There was some. I know I've talked about the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, but I know there's one in Washington D.C.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I looked that one up, and there was nothing available, no openings available, period.
No.
So some of these you have to get advanced reservations, and there's another one. There were two more that I saw that I'm gonna look into. But these are definitely, I mean, win-win places you can go and take your kids and let them experience some history. And
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I was thinking of the Frederick Douglass House too, an incredible museum where he actually did live. Unfortunately, right now it is under renovation until 2023. But after that, I say go. It's free and it's not hard to get into, and it's absolutely worth it.
well, so I know the ones that I went to were really reasonably priced, and it's interesting. Made me think about the museums that are in England. They're free.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's important that we take advantage of them, even if they're not free. They're still low cost, and especially for this generation of kids, they're forgetting the paths and the struggles it took to open up these doors for them to be what they are. And you can take it however you want it. If they want to be a positive example, they can. If they want to be less than positive example, they can be. But all of our ancestors and people that went before us and took the stripes and went through all of that, this is what they went through to open up that door for them. And when they start talking about CRT and blah, 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 you got to push back on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that's discounting the cost that was paid to open up these doors for you.
Absolutely. And that this is divisive history, and all it's going to do is make people upset and dislike each other and all of that. It's none of that. I mean, truth, I think, has to be told and understood. Yeah.
I think that's true. And you get to actually see some of the memorabilia. I mean, it's really, really important to see that. Some of it, some places, some museums, you can touch it. But even more important, I think, is what you said, about the feeling that you get when you're there. That, you can't even put a name to it. And that you'll never lose. Even if you never get the book, that feeling that you got as you walked into the Lorraine Hotel, or, the feeling you got, Robin, at the Frederick Douglass Museum when you went to the house, Frederick Douglass's house. That's something that stays with you, and it's really important to experience that.
Well, and I think too, about the feeling, that one important place to get that feeling, to connect with that feeling, is a source that many of us overlook, and that may be even as close as right in our homes. And those are our elders, our parents, grandparents, sometimes great grandparents, aunts, uncles. They're around, and they have a story, and they have a history too. And this part of our family history, who knows? Maybe they marched with Dr. King. Maybe they, did freedom rides. But whatever it is, it's part of your family history, and they can tell that history like no one else, and they can give that feeling, help that feeling stay alive in the family.
Reminded me of a story, and I've shared this story before. How my mother, my father, he was, I don't know, he was in one of those Korean wars or something he went to. But anyway, they had been looking for a place to live when he got back, and kind of tie this together. I mean, our speech patterns of our youth today are horrible. Their English is bad. Now, if I'll bring it all together. If you go back and you look at if you look at just how people spoke in the past. For example, I watched the documentary that was Summer of Soul. If you looked at the people of color, everybody in that documentary spoke well.
Yeah.
They didn't speak some sub language that you hear on the streets. Now, with that said, going back to my mother, back there, I believe it was like the 60s or something, that blacks, they spoke well, I mean, not everyone, but So when she would call to see about looking for a place to live, they were like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. They were happy to hear her. But when she would show up to get a rental agreement, they would say, I'm sorry, we do not rent to Negroes.
Yeah.
And she shared that happening to her on many occasions. And I've shared that with my kids, and they're like, wow, really? I'm like, yes, really. Also my grandmother, she was worked downtown Oakland at one time, and she said she didn't have exact change or something for the bus, and the bus driver wouldn't let her get on, and she had to walk.
Wow.
Walked home, and she said after that she would she made it a point. And these are things that we had to suffer with, and that wasn't that long ago. So we have a whole generation, they're chasing the shiny thing, and just they're forgetting about how to represent. And I'm not sure that's I can't make a blanket statement and say that's in every case, but it's important for the ones to know why they are where they are, and we have to keep it. We have to remember where we were.
I think that's true. Like both my parents went to historically Black colleges and universities. Sam Houston, which is now Houston Tillotson, in Texas College out of Tyler, Texas. But had it not been for those institutions, they wouldn't have gotten a college education because they were barred from going to schools with white students.
I'm reminded. I think you just traveled out of the country.
Yes,
I did, to Ghana.
I was in I think it was Kenya, and the kids were stressed because school was important. If they didn't get good grades, they kicked them out of school. They couldn't go to school. School was not. It wasn't a right. It was a privilege. Our kids get that mixed up now, and they think it's they don't care about school. Those kids cared about school. It meant something to them. I would now. It's been a while since I've been to Africa a few times, but it's been a while, and I was kind of like, wow. I think that's important too. Not only that we can travel and find places here in the States that we can relate to, but also connecting, where our ancestors came from to where we are now. What are some ideas? Because I was thinking about that when I saw, okay, wow, I hadn't thought about going back to Africa, to the continent of Africa. And want to share some experiences with me on maybe some good places to go. And I'm sure it wasn't that expensive.
No, it wasn't. Actually, it was very reasonable. And yeah, we spent time the first few days in Accra. Very, very interesting. And a lot of the political history was there. We visited the Nkrumah, I guess that's memorial there. And what was the name of the other one? Mel.
Maybe Du Bois? That one?
Yes, Du Bois House. Right. Oh, we could sit at Du Bois's desk where he would sit and work. We saw his library collection. I mean, it was really a lot of good political history there. And I mean, one room was just a veritable who's who of the Black liberation movement. I mean, if I could have just taken the pictures from that wall, yeah. But Okay, yeah, I go off, but yeah, then we spent some time in Kumasi. Really, a lot of the cultural stuff there. We learned about making kente cloth and yeah, about the cocoa beans and the cocoa bean industry there, and we actually did some cooking in other people's in a person's house, and for the first time, I cooked with, oh, what is that called? That kind of oil, palm oil. And I thought, this is great. And we made baked plantains and all of that. But it was let me back up. It was a really interesting experience. And while we were cooking over open coals, um,
Charcoal.
yeah, the
Mhm.
uh, the electricity all went out, and there was a complete blackout. And what happened was that everybody just kept going about their business. It was completely dark, and I was thinking, if this would have happened in the US, there would have been looting and people would have been freaking out. It, would have been probably a purge night and all that. But it was everybody just kept going about their business because everybody's kind of working together, helping each other. Oh, do you have a flashlight? Yeah, okay, well, come over and help me, just stir this pot. And everybody's just helping each other out. And it just felt so at home there. And then there is the other side of the history too, with the slave trade. And we did see, Mel, maybe you want to talk more about that, the castles.
Yeah, there were a couple of slave castles, and the one thing that struck me as we went to the one that was in Cape, it wasn't Cape Town, it was Cape Cod
Cape Coast.
Coast,
Mhm.
Cape Coast. It was that they had a door, and at the top of the door was that said the door of no return. You go through that door, and then you're in the transatlantic slave, if you're an enslaved person, having walked something like 400 miles just to get to that. But the striking thing was on the other side, it said the door of return. And we went through the door of return, and we were kind of greeted in a way that they were saying that you know you survived. you know the people who left here, there's some people who didn't survive, but you survived. You somehow managed to get back here. That's so important to the African people, to the Ghanaian people, that you survived all that you had to go through in this transatlantic slave trade, and all you had to go through in America, in the United States, but you survived. You're back here now. You're here, and we welcome you. I thought that was an amazing feeling.
It sure was. And it's so hard to even put words to that feeling.
Yeah,
And, I thought beforehand that, okay, maybe this is kind of a marketing thing that Ghana's doing to get people for tourism, but it absolutely is not.
it isn't. It isn't.
When you're there, you really feel that, wow, everything that people went through and actually survived, and so that I could be here. And it's sad for the ones that didn't, because it was really very random who did and who did not survive. And we did prayers too. We really spent time honoring the people who had been in those rooms. You could see where many had scratched the walls and all of that too. And it really brought it, and to be, it really made it real. That these are real people, and this went on for hundreds of years. You know,
Right. So we have a rich history, we have a rich culture. Uh, we need to seek that out.
Mhm.
We may not be able to get all the books and materials, or to even get them into the schools, although, we certainly will work on that. But we need to seek that out where we are, or where we can go. All of us can't, go to some of the other states, but where you are, there we have a rich history. So even in California, the states that didn't have slavery, there's a rich history of what African Americans did. So let's know that, and honor that.
It's interesting you say that. It's like I'm not sure a lot of people know. I did trying to remember. I did a video. I forgot the name, but it was I didn't realize how much segregation how segregation was actually existent in California. One of the most liberal states. But that was the case study was done down in Southern California Supreme Court Justice Marshall, Thurgood Marshall, who wasn't a support he wasn't a Supreme Court justice at that time, but he took on a case from a Hispanic girl who wasn't allowed to go to the white school. And that was the test case that brought about desegregation in California and set up the case for the entire country.
Wow.
That's right here in the state of California, in Southern Cal of all places. And it wasn't even a person of African descent. It was a Hispanic person.
Right. Wow.
But yet it carried over. And here he is. The NAACP took up her case. I think it was what's the term for the lawyers? Legal Defense Fund or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Yeah.
They took her case. And that set the precedent for everything else. So that's so much history that that's right here among us. It's be interesting, and I'm going to pose this.
Uh-oh.
A list. Maybe we can get together and just put together a list, or just a list of places that people can go in their state. And I have no problems working on that.
I love that idea.
State by state, yeah.
By state. And then what you said also is like, and that's when YouTube and videos do have their purpose. If you can't go, then okay, you can go and look at it here. It's not going to replace the feeling. Like example, I'll give you an example. One of the things that was a major turning point on my tour, it's funny how the museum set up. It's slowly, you slowly go upstairs. You're constantly climbing, but it's not stairs. It's just a slight incline. And as you go up, when you finish, you're on the top floor. But anyway, during that route, you come through this one pathway and you turn, and there is the bus. I'm not sure if it's the exact bus, but it's a bus with, help me now.
Rosa?
Yeah. Yeah, Rosa, you go on the bus and there's a statue of Rosa Parks sitting there on the bus, and you can get on the bus. I took pictures on the bus. Whether it was the exact bus, I'm not, but it was a replica, and you understood, wow, this is real. And Black folks, colors, African Americans, they have to pay their fare on the front. They have to get off the front of the bus, go to the back of the bus, and go on the back door.
I know that because I was there. I was, there doing the segregated bus system.
That's ridiculous. You pay your fare, same as everybody else at the front. Then you have to get off the bus, go to the back, and get on the back of the bus.
I mean, that's dehumanizing. Yeah, for someone to have to do that. And you don't get you're not paying a lesser fare either. You're paying what everybody else is paying.
You don't get a discounted fare. You just get a discounted ticket or discounted seat. But and these are the things that you can't actually feel from a video, but you can get a sense of what it is. But if you can go there, go there. But if not, then we'll take the video. We'll share the video.
Take the video. Yeah, right. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I do too. I think this list is a really great idea. It's kind of a directory. Yeah.
My own list right now.
Well, I know Mel started the list already too.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm almost finished with my espresso here, but I have a list here too, and we weren't able to get to, I guess we all have a list, we weren't able to get to everything, but I think it's so important that we do, find a way to connect with our history through a museum, through talking to our elders, even, books, movies. A lot of movies are coming out now that remind us. There are different ways, but if you can go visit a reenactment. Has anyone done a reenactment? Have you?
No.
No, I have but this was for Waterloo here. The Battle of Waterloo. So not African American history, but it was to participate in that and to see that, it was very, very moving. I would love to see one with my own history. So.
Yeah, well, at the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, there was a reenactment. We were not participants, but we could see what was going on.
I mean, that's amazing.
The word cowboy. Are you familiar with the origins of the word cowboy? No. Well, cowboy. You say cowboys, people are always thinking, some guy, blonde haired, blue eyes, swinging a lasso, and he's being a cowboy. What did they call black men to demean them? They called them boys.
Boys.
Right.
Boy. And what was their job? Because the fact of it is, the white folks, the slave owners, they didn't want to work. So what would they do? They would have these men, you boys go deal with those cows.
Oh, that's how.
Boys, you boys go wrangle cowboys. That's where the word came from. But the problem, well, herein lies the problem. You know how, I hate to throw a blanket statement on black folks, but some people, and some people more than others, put it like that. If you give them a task, they're gonna make it fun. They're gonna add their own style, their own cool way of doing it. They got out there on those horses and they wrangled those cows, and they became so good and so stylish with it that the word cowboy, it was not a demeaning word. It was like, yeah, I'm a cowboy. Yes.
Oh, all right.
What happened with the word? They took the word.
Yeah.
Took the title, yeah, I'm a cowboy.
Yep. Now we're thinking blonde hair, blue eyed white person.
Because those men that were called boys, you boys go out there and deal with them cows. You see them cowboys over there? So, but anyway, so that's something to think about. I was going someplace else, and
This was interesting. Yes.
But yeah. So it'll come back to me.
Okay. But I think there's so many different ways to learn history and to experience it, and to actually remember that we're making it right now too. But yeah, I think unless Kirk remember what she's about to say, I think we're going to have to go because I finished my espresso.
That's what I was going to say. So.
Oh, okay.
And we got real.
Yes.
We got real.
We did. You look so happy. Yeah. So anyway, thanks so much. And you guys, I've written down some things here too. Kirk, your videos on Wadi Speaks, WADI Speaks, very, very interesting. And like I said, I just sat there. I like that they're short, they're 7 or 8 minutes, and you can really get into it. So I really highly recommend it. Well, you really encouraged me to actually, get out and go to these places too. So, well, thanks guys. And asante sana. And I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.